What do you do when it's your time to mourn, to cry, to grieve? Grief can be a lonely road. Where does it start and where does it end? Join us on this intimate journey of discovery, healing, and transformation. This documentary will explore the many facets of grief.
It used to be a black pit that I was afraid of, but now it's more of a black pit that I have to navigate. So it's changed. Going through a process, a traumatic experience, has made me less fearful of it. Yeah. For a person that you loved and lost, today it has changed a lot, and it will probably change again. But today it means experiencing the memories of that person, not in an ideal way or completely negative way, but being able to see the person that you've lost as more real. Right? Like, I think sometimes in the beginning phase of grief, at least for me, it's you idealize the person or you demonize the person, right? And it's like it goes in cycles. So I think conquering it for me means being able to handle both of those packages at once. In the beginning, I idealized my father, so I felt like the world could never be a good place without this person in it. And my world could never be whole ever again without this person in it. And you focus on the memories, right? Because you're told, oh, remember the good times. So you focus on that, right? You remember the good times. But then after a while, a little time goes by, and then you start remembering the negative things. So it makes you kind of forget the good things. So that's like year 2, right? And then you get angry at the slights and the hurts, and you're like, at least for me, running through them, and then you're looking, you kind of blame the person for dying for a while, like, for hurting you in this way, like it's personal. I went through that, and just kind of from that realizing, well, this can't be it. This is not the sum total of it, and then putting them together. And once they came together, then it was like, okay, I can, today it's this way, tomorrow it's that way. So I erased all expectations because I found I was a lot more stressed when I had an expectation, right? So I didn't know what the next day, sometimes the next hour, what it would be like. And giving up the expectation of knowing was part of that process. He died November 3rd, and I was in the midst of doing nothing but work because I wanted to see him for Christmas. Right? And with that holiday, we were all going to go. So the last conversation I had with my dad, he called and he said, why you ain't calling me to say goodbye? I said, Daddy, I'm not going to tell you goodbye because I'm going to see you for my birthday, right? Which was going to be like 5 weeks later. So I was just being like very light about it, and looking forward to spending the time with him at Christmas. So the news was a shock. Yeah, it was shocking. Because with all the plans that we had. So instead we had to bring our plans forward and go for his funeral. I got on the phone and made calls because I'm the eldest. Made all these little phone calls, and I went to bed with the mind that I would get up and finish my day tomorrow and then adjust my calendar after that, right? So I went to bed and slept normally, and waking up I felt this pressure on me. And my dad, he would push at you sometimes when you weren't behaving. He would like chunk you to the, so I was feeling that and hearing his voice. Right? And I didn't get up, right? I opened like into it. And I was like, I have this headache and this pain, physical. And then I realized this pain is nothing like I'd experienced. And checking my blood pressure, it was like in stroke territory. And when I went to the doctor, because I was getting panic attacks and all this kind of stuff, so my family took me to a doctor. And I told him about that, and he said, if you had jumped up in the morning, you would probably be going to the emergency room, because you would have had a stroke. So that's when I realized that my dad was with me, and I could hear his voice.
When he kind of moved.
Yeah, right. That was the first time. And maybe 6 months after that, I was trying to control everything. So I would tell myself how I would feel and tell myself what I was going to do and take charge, right? And I had this dream. I wouldn't cry. Like now I cry all the time. If I feel like crying, I cry. But I would try to stop. So I was dreaming and his voice again. And he's like, what are you doing? And I was like, I can't do this because my mom is going to pass. And it's probably going to be like this. And I have to save my strength for that. Because I'm a planner. And he goes, but she's alive now, right? And I woke up and I thought about that and I said, when that time comes, I'm going to worry about that then. But right now, I'm going to grieve all the way, 100%. And I just fell into grief. He was a self-created man. People usually self-made man, but he wasn't a self-made man, he was a self-created man. My father is from very humble beginnings, and he was very bright, very intelligent man. So he wanted to leave those humble beginnings behind and become a bigger person. So he focused a lot on education for himself, and he tried to create the best person that he could imagine being, right? That's the way I see him now as a person. As a father, I think because my father, hindsight being 20/20, because my father was from humble beginnings, he was creating himself as he was raising his children. So a lot of his lessons were on the fly and kind of informal. So you had to get it. As a father, he wasn't a typical father, but he was very loving. He was just dynamic, people loved him. He made friends very easily. He was an irreverent man. Right? He was an irreverent man. In a nutshell, I'm a gardener, I plant. So the vision I have is like my dad is this big giant oak tree, and I was one of the acorns he dropped, and then he toppled. So I am getting sun, right? But I'm of him. Right? And he provided the shade when he was there. So I was like a tree that needed more sun, and he toppled. So for me, that image of a big oak tree falling over, and now I'm going to get sun. And that's how I'm going to keep that memory alive and continue that.
I want to ask you, if you could remember one of your fondest memories of your father, what would that be as a child?
Holding on to him while he rode his Harley. After work, I used to wait for him to come home, and he'd come home with his work motorcycle. He rode a Harley for work, and then he would park that and go upstairs and like change his clothes and everything, and I'd be like sitting at the bottom of the steps, and then he'd come down. Sometimes he'd leave me, sometimes it would take me, depending on what was happening, but I would just wait for that. And he was like, "You want to ride?" And I was like, "Okay," and I'd jump on the motorcycle in the afternoon to ride with my dad. That was, I can still feel it today, because I was very small, right? And, flying down on a huge Harley, you just hold on to what you have. And that was my father. So that's my fondest memory, of just holding my father and feeling the wind. We traveled to Guyana, and he had a good send-off. And we were there for a couple of weeks, and we had we have like different ceremonies and different ways that we go about burial for our dead. And
could you share some of them?
Well, my dad chose to be cremated on a pyre. So it's
and what's a pyre?
It's like if you were cremated, right here you're cremated in an oven. There it's an open air, how it was done there. So they literally set up the logs and the wood, and they put ghee. It's a very flammable form of butter, and they light it on fire in the sunshine, and. In this space where they do it, is imagine like a big field, and there's all these designated areas that are pyres. So it's not one funeral at a time, right? So there may be another group with a pyre there as well and stuff like that.
So multiple funerals are going on
at the same time, because it's a huge field, right? And it's by the sea, so everything kind of goes out to the sea, and there's some people may have drumming or things like that. So it's you can stay as long as you want, but you see the body burning. You witness that. It can be traumatic, but it helps you to put an end to it. It not to be morbid, but to sit there and watch your father just leave you in flames, and to like see his spinal column and see his long bones and his skull. It was to see that.
It was traumatic.
It can be, but after a while to put it down, it's easier, because at least I think so, because I know he is to dust, and that's what even. For that, I think he wanted that for us, to know that he really did go back to dust, and we saw it. Yeah. I literally felt like I was coming apart, and it changed the trajectory of my life, because eventually I couldn't hold on. And I couldn't work the same way I worked before. And because I couldn't work the same way I worked before, I couldn't work because I had no new tools. So I was immobilized, right, in being stoic, right? And in that frozen place, from that frozen place, we're gonna come back to the oak trees. I have 2 oak trees in my backyard, and I would sit under them, and I would have so much comfort, and I would be sitting there while my work was unraveling, and I couldn't move, and I was speaking to my sister, and I said, I can't do this. I can't do this anymore, but I don't know what I'm going to do. People go and they have funerals and they get 2 weeks off, they go back to work. I'm like, how do they do that? Right? So I said, this place is like an oasis. I can't leave, you know. And we actually sat. I was sitting in my car, not leaving the driveway to go to work, and actually talked through setting up my work at my home. So, and I renamed my business the Oasis, and I decided to do for others what I needed. So I created the space that I needed to heal and just started doing it. And now I just said that in 5 seconds, but it was like maybe almost a year to kind of make that happen. But it changed how I work. Yeah. I couldn't go back to working the way I was working before. It's more harder for me in the days and weeks, believe it or not, now is the hardest time because November 3rd is coming, right? So every day going to that day, it's like I try to remember what I was doing on this day and this day and this day because I'm going to relive it on that day, right? But it's not bad anymore because I'm taking it in stride now. The first year I was immobilized by it. The second year I got through the day, and I was in the middle of a divorce the second day, and well, I guess I was at the end of a divorce, the second year, I'm sorry. And at the end of the day, November 3rd, I was walking up to my driveway to get my mail, and I thought, oh wow, this day has gone by and it hasn't been that terrible at all. Wow. I said, you know, the only thing that could make this day shift now would be this divorce. And I opened the mailbox and my final divorce papers were in the mailbox. And I sat with that for a second because my husband that I was getting divorced from, in my head and my heart space, was occupied spaces very similar to where my father was, because this was somebody I revered in much kind of the same way. And I couldn't believe that the universe had toppled these trees on the same date. That was really, that's really what propelled me to look at that and see the two most important men in my life I'm separated from, and it's marked on the same date, right? And I was like, okay, I get the message. You have to grow up, girl. It sounds so trite, but it's true. Don't be afraid to fall. Don't be afraid to fall. What's on the other side is much better than what being stoic is always delivering. Yeah, just and let it, when it comes, don't expect it, and don't give yourself a timetable. And when it comes, let it come. Yeah. I had to come to realizations about how I was going to be going forward, and even seeing some of my personality and who I was, how it was symbiotic with my father's energy, right? So I am this way because I had to do these things for this person who I revere. But then it was like, wait, I don't have to do these things anymore, right? So it changed me in that way, and I learned about myself in that way. I realized, like, these things that I'm thinking are me, is not their response to this energy of him and me.
So you had to see yourself outside of the tree.
Yes,
without
outside of the
there.
tree. So that's why visualization-wise, I said it's sunshine. The sunshine is what's going to come. So that's why I said I felt like I was in the shade, being a tree.
Yeah.
Right? Just going along my business, being a tree, not realizing that I was really not. But now that this space is cleared, the space that tree took, I could feel that type of space. My father was an irreverent man. So
expound on it.
Well, we're about to go into an area where he would say, right? Mm-hmm. So my father sent us to different churches. Mm-hmm. I attended several different types of religious schools. Mm-hmm. And he would say to me, in all seriousness, and this is where I would say my dad was not a perfect person, he would tell a child, religion is just an organization, you know. You have to make sure that this organization is not there just to keep itself going, you know. You don't trust nobody, go to the mountaintop and come back with a staff. They got to come back with a tool. Because you got to work out of everything. Right? So these are the types of things he said to me. So I actually became more spiritual when he passed, because that was one of the things that was tempered in my life when he was with me. Yeah. So he was just that way. So I had to find my way in that, and now I feel like I am more reverent than my father. The biggest lesson that he said was know your worth. My dad was always concerned, it seemed like, about his children not knowing their worth and their value. So know your worth and don't give up. That was it. That's the biggest lesson he taught me with his voice. With his life, he taught me to not let opportunities to let people know how you feel about them go by. Yeah. And it's helped me with my relationship with my children, because I see myself and where they need me on a bigger scale. Yeah. I have an idea of the pain that they're going to experience when I'm gone, and I try now more to be more mindful of when I'm interacting with them, to give them a little bit more. Yeah. I feel his energy. I feel just as protected. As a matter of fact, I feel more protected. We're human. When your father is alive and you need $500, you have somebody to call, right? Being just practical. But now it's bigger than that. Like, I know that, like, I talk to my dad all the time, like, about every little thing. I talk to him about my lunch as much as what I'm going to be doing with my life. And even things that he wouldn't approve of, I now can do it, right? Because, he wouldn't necessarily approve of everything that I do. So now it's like, hey, Daddy, I'm doing this. You can't stop me. I literally do that now, And I honor him as my ancestor and just being free of the body.
That's true.
And just having all this energy now, and I'm thinking he's having a good time.
Even though it was a dark place, a lot of great things were birthed out of you winning. And you gave in, but it sounds like you still won. You changed directions in your life. You birthed something very beautiful in your business. It blossomed, it grew. You said you discovered yourself in ways that you had never discovered yourself before. And I think a lot of times people feel that grief just suffocates them and that it stops them. But is there life? It sounds like there's life after grief.
Yes, because it's negative tension for positive trajectory. So
I like that.
Yeah.
Say that again.
It's negative tension for positive trajectory. I'm big on visualization, so for me it's like an arrow, and you have the arrow and you're pulling it back. As you're pulling it back, that's the feeling, that's the grief, that's all that stuff. So the further back you pull it, the farther that arrow is going to fly. So I would literally say things like, well, okay, when the pain was coming, ooh, wow, it's going to be something when this goes to the other side, bring it on, right? So yeah, I would do stuff like that in the shower, because that's where a lot of stuff would hit me when I was alone. And I would be like, the pain, sometimes I'd literally hold on to the wall and just revel in the pain, because I knew that on the other side of this pain it's owed to me, because there is always have to be balance. There's always balance for everything.